On a rock in the middle of the sea, an old man falls face down on stone. There is no one to catch him, no one to explain what just happened. The island is small enough to walk across in an afternoon. Bare hills, wind-scraped cliffs, the kind of place Rome sends people it wants the world to forget. He has been here for months, maybe longer. And a moment ago, a voice spoke that he has not heard in over 60 years, and it knocked him to the ground like a physical blow. We are going to tell you who he is, but not yet. Here's what you need to understand first. This man's life began with someone else falling down in fear, a very long time before him. And in between those two men hitting the ground, an entire pattern runs through the Bible, one most people read past without ever noticing. 2 words, spoken by God, by angels, by Christ himself, over and over, to people who had absolutely no reason to expect anything good was about to happen to them. Fear not. You have probably heard those words quoted at Christmas, maybe stitched onto a pillow, maybe printed under a sunset on a coffee mug. And if that's all you've ever taken them for, a little reassurance, a spiritual pat on the back, you have missed what they actually mean. This is not a story about comfort. This is not a story about safety. This is not a story about feeling better. This is a story about what God says in the half-second before he hands someone the most terrifying, most history-altering assignment of their entire life. Because here is the pattern, and once you see it, you will never read these 2 words the same way again. Every single time "fear not" appears in Scripture, something enormous is about to happen to the person hearing it. Not comfort, not safety, a summons. Stay with me, because we are going to walk through that pattern from the very first time God says it, to a frightened old man with no children, all the way to the very last time, on a rock in the sea, to the man you just watched hit the ground. And by the time we get back to him, you will understand exactly why those 2 words terrified him more than anything Rome could have done. Let's go back to the beginning, to the first time anyone in Scripture hears those words. His name is Abram. You'll later know him as Abraham, but right now he is just a man somewhere around 80 years old, standing in the dark outside his tent, looking up at a sky he cannot count the stars in. He has no son, no land of his own. He has left everything familiar, his country, his father's house, the gods his family used to worship, to follow a voice that promised him descendants too many to number. And so far he has nothing to show for it. Genesis 15 records what happens next. God comes to him in a vision and says, "Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward." Here's what most people miss. Abraham wasn't afraid of an enemy. He was afraid of disappointment, of having given up everything for a promise that might never come true. And God doesn't say relax. God says fear not, right before asking him to believe, against every shred of evidence, for a future he would not live to see in full. That single sentence carried the weight of a covenant that would eventually produce a nation. You can imagine the tension in his chest as he said yes anyway. Now hold that thought, because the same 2 words show up again, and this time to someone with far less reason to expect mercy. Her name is Hagar. She is Egyptian, a servant in Abraham's household, and she has just been sent into the wilderness of Beersheba with her son Ishmael and almost nothing else. The water runs out. She puts the boy under a bush because she cannot bear to watch him die in her arms, and she sits down at a distance and weeps. This is a woman with no protector, no tribe, no legal standing, the kind of person history simply erases. And Genesis 21 tells us an angel calls to her, "Fear not, God hath heard the voice of the lad." Not fear not, I will rescue you eventually. Fear not, present tense, the well already there, her eyes simply not yet open to see it. The God who spoke covenant promises to a wealthy patriarch under the stars is the same God who speaks to a desperate single mother in the dirt. The audience changes, the pattern does not. But it gets stranger because the next fear not doesn't go to one frightened person. it goes to 2 million of them at once. Picture the scene. The entire nation of Israel, recently freed from slavery, standing at the edge of the Red Sea. Behind them, Pharaoh's army. Chariots, horses, soldiers with nothing left to lose. In front of them, water. There is no path forward and no way back. This is Moses' moment. Exodus 14 records his command to the terrified crowd. Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord. The Hebrew word behind fear here is yah, and it's worth slowing down on, because it carries more weight than the English translation gives it. Yah doesn't just mean ordinary fright. At its root, it means to fear, and morally to revere. It's the word for the trembling knees feeling you get standing at the edge of something too big to be safe. Moses isn't telling 2 million people to feel nothing. He's telling them the thing in front of them is too large for ordinary fear to hold, so don't bother trying. 3 stories, 3 people in 3 completely different situations: a childless patriarch, an abandoned mother, a fugitive leader with an entire nation behind him. And in every case, fear not arrives in the same place, right before the impossible. Here's the pattern so far, laid out plainly. God does not say "fear not" to people who are about to have an easy day. He says it to people standing at the edge of something that should, by every reasonable measure, terrify them. A promise with no proof, a wilderness with no water, a sea with no path through it. If that pattern held for only 3 people, you could call it a coincidence. It doesn't hold for 3 people. Stay with us, because what comes next is where the pattern gets harder to explain away. Before we keep going, if you've made it this far, you already know this channel goes looking for the details most Bible teaching skips past. Hit subscribe so you don't miss where this story ends, because the final fear not in this video is the one that ties every other one together, and most people have never even heard the story. Now, let's keep going. There's one more thing about this pattern you need to see before it gets personal, and it starts with a man hiding in a hole in the ground. His name is Gideon, and you find him in Judges 6, threshing wheat inside a wine press, hidden from view, because Midianite raiders have been stripping Israel's fields bare for 7 years straight. He is the youngest son in his family, from a clan nobody would call significant, and he is afraid, not of God yet, just of the next raid. Then the angel of the Lord sits down under a tree near him and says he has been chosen to save Israel. Gideon argues. He builds an altar, and when he finally really realizes, that he has been standing face to face with God himself, Judges 6 tells us what happens: terror. Gideon believed seeing God's face meant he was about to die. And the response is immediate: "Peace be unto thee, fear not, thou shalt not die." Here's the part nobody tells you. Gideon goes on to lead 300 men against an army described as too numerous to count. The fear not didn't come before a quiet life. It came directly before the most dangerous assignment Gideon would ever carry out. Now watch what happens when we cross from the Old Testament into the New, because the pattern doesn't just continue, it sharpens. An elderly priest named Zacharias is serving his rotation in the temple, burning incense at the altar, when the angel Gabriel appears beside him. Luke 1 tells us Zacharias is troubled. The text doesn't soften it, and Gabriel's first words are immediate: "Fear not, Zacharias, for thy prayer is heard." What follows that sentence is a son in his old age, a son who will grow up to walk into the wilderness and prepare the way for the Messiah. The fear not isn't comfort for an old man. It's the doorway into the most significant assignment of his entire priestly career, and it costs him 9 months of silence, because he doesn't fully believe it. The Greek word behind fear not in the New Testament is phobio, and here's why that matters. It comes from the root word for fear itself, and it carries the sense of being frightened or alarmed. But by extension, it can also mean to stand in awe of something, to revere it. The same word used for terrified is the word used for the trembling respect you'd have standing in front of something infinitely larger than you. Gabriel isn't telling Zacharias his feelings are wrong. He's telling him the size of what's coming is correct, and so is the way his body is reacting to it. But the most famous "fear not" in human history is still coming, and it goes to someone with even less standing than Zacharias had. A teenage girl in Nazareth, a town small enough that people from bigger cities used it as a punchline, is engaged to a carpenter named Joseph. She has done nothing remarkable. She has no title, no wealth, no public reputation to protect her. And Gabriel appears to her too, and Luke records his first words, "Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with God." What follows that sentence will get her accused of unfaithfulness in a culture where the penalty could be death by stoning. It will mean carrying a pregnancy she cannot explain to anyone who didn't witness the angel. It will mean a sword will one pierce through her own soul, watching what becomes of the child she's about to carry. Fear not, right before the single most world-altering pregnancy in the history of the human race. By now the pattern shouldn't surprise you anymore. A childless patriarch, an abandoned mother, a fugitive leader, a hidden farmer, a silenced priest, a teenage girl with no protection. 6 different lives, 6 completely different situations, and in every single one, fear not, is the sound of God handing someone something too big to carry safely. This is not a story about a phrase God uses to calm people down. This is not a story about a comforting Bible verse for hard seasons. This is not a story about feeling at peace. This is a story about the exact words God uses right before He asks someone to do something that could destroy them. And we are not done, because the most intense version of this pattern, the one that brings us back to the man on the rock in the sea, is still ahead. Here's where the stakes stop being personal and start being eternal. Outside Bethlehem, on a hillside in the dark, a group of shepherds are doing the lowest status job available in their society, watching animals through the night, the kind of work nobody important volunteers for, and the sky splits open. Luke 2 tells us the glory of the Lord shines around them, and they are, understandably, terrified. The angel's first words, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy." Here's what most people miss about this one. Of everyone alive on the planet that night, God chose shepherds to hear it first. Not the religious leaders in Jerusalem 6 miles away, not the emperor in Rome. Shepherds. The fear not that announces the birth of the Messiah goes first to the people everyone else overlooked. Now hold that thought, because the pattern follows Jesus' own disciples too. Years later, in a small boat in the middle of a storm on the Sea of Galilee, water pouring in, wind tearing at the sail, disciples watch a figure walking toward them across the waves and assume it's a ghost. They scream. And the voice that answers them says, "Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid." The same pattern, terror, right before they're asked to trust Him with something that defies everything they understand about the physical world. But there is one more fear not left, the one this whole video has been building toward, the one spoken to the man you saw fall face down on a rock in the sea, back at the very beginning. His name is John. By the time we find him on that island, he is the last living member of the original 12 disciples, every other one already dead, most of them violently. The island is called Patmos, a small, barren outcrop in the Aegean Sea that the Roman Empire used specifically to isolate people it considered dangerous. The early church historian Eusebius records that John was exiled there under the Emperor Domitian, and that he was only permitted to return home after Domitian's reign came to an end. Rome didn't execute John. Rome simply removed him, took an old man with no army and no weapon, and made sure his voice could never reach anyone again. And on that island, alone, with nothing left to lose and nowhere left to be silenced from, John sees a vision of the risen Christ, so overwhelming that Revelation chapter 1 tells us he falls at his feet as dead. The first words Christ speaks to him are the same two words that opened this entire story, all the way back with Abraham. Fear not, I am the first and the last. This is the man from the opening. This is the moment we promised you. The same God who told a childless old man to trust an impossible promise is the same God standing in front of an exiled old man on a forgotten island, saying the exact same thing he's been saying since Genesis. I am not finished. Don't be afraid of what comes next. Be ready for it. Think about what John is about to be handed. Not comfort, not retirement. The entire book of Revelation, the last and largest unveiling of how the whole story ends, is delivered to a man who has just been told, again, fear not. You know that feeling, the one where the phone rings late at night, and before anyone says a single word, your stomach already knows something has changed. That feeling isn't really about bad news. It's about size. It's your body recognizing that whatever comes next is bigger than the moment before it. That is what fear not sounds like every single time it appears in Scripture. Not the absence of something big, the doorway into it. This is not a story about a phrase that means relax. This is not a story about a verse for anxious nights. This is not a story about feeling calm. This is a story about the two words God has used every time in the second right before He hands someone more than they thought they could carry. So here's what all of this actually means. First, every single fear not in Scripture, from Abraham to John, comes immediately before an assignment, never after it's safely over. God does not say it in hindsight. He says it on the edge. Second, if you are afraid right now of a decision, a diagnosis, a door that just opened in your life that you didn't ask for, that fear might not mean something has gone wrong. Every person in this video felt exactly what you're feeling before they became the people we still talk about thousands of years later. And third, and this is the one that should actually keep you up tonight, the voice that spoke to a frightened old man with no son, and a desperate mother in the wilderness, and a terrified teenage girl in Nazareth, and a forgotten old man exiled to a rock in the sea, has not stopped speaking. The same two words are not locked inside an ancient book. They are being spoken into someone's life tonight. They might be being spoken into yours. So tell me, out of everyone in this video, whose fear not hit you the hardest? Abraham's, Meron's? Tell me below, because I read every single one. Because here is the last thing to sit with. God has never once said, fear not, to someone He was about to abandon. Every time those two words leave His mouth, He stays in the room until the impossible thing is finished.